Good morning, guys. Today the project's gonna be starting on this motor. I do want to start putting the assembly back on the truck, but I ordered this stuff called fluid film because I was gonna put the little bells and whistles on the doors and tailgate and everything. But I thought, man, I might as well shoot some of that stuff in the hopes to kind of prevent rust. They do use salt up where I'm at, so I'm putting that on hold for the time being. So I figured I might as well tear into this motor. I don't know if I've discussed it in a previous video, but with this motor, I was looking in, saw some rust on one of the valves. So I don't know as of now how in depth I'm going to take this, or how in depth I have to go with this motor rather. So, bit chilly in here. It is starting to warm up, so I was gonna build a fire. I don't think I will. I did get my little stove finally set up, because I know last winter, once winter hit, I couldn't even come out here and work. So this is not gonna be a how-to video. There's a lot of those online. So this is just basically, me out here just kind of messing around with this Toyota. I do need to get the Toyota done because I do already have, I was going to say another project, but I've got several projects. One of the winter projects I want to do, I finally figured out on my snowmobile precisely as of now what my plan, doing that old 69 Scorpion snowmobile is going to be. I've kind of been hem-hawing and I think I have a plan. So that's my winter plan. Other winter plans, I've got my Husky 272. I got to put a new, there it is, got to put a new piston and basically rebuild it. So it runs fine, it's just it's gutless, so time to do that. Hope to do that this winter. I don't actually think I need it next summer. I think I got enough firewood. But I also picked up a tractor and I need to pull that in. I don't think it'll happen this winter because I need to use it for snow removal. So that's pretty much it. I'm gonna kind of round up tools and get started. First things first, it's been sitting a while, so I'm gonna try to just get some of the dust off. And with this motor, my original plan was just to pull the head off, have it resurfaced, put a new head gasket, new timing belt, or these are chains, timing chain, maybe water pump, that kind of thing. I wanted to put a new front main seal, rear main seal. I wanted to see the condition of the clutch in there. And who knows, see what that gasket's like. Try to fix some of the leaks, and so that was just my original plan. Now it's turning more into, I'll have to see when I get in there, but it's turning more into, instead of just a top rebuild, I'm leaning towards just doing a full-on, top and bottom rebuild, meaning pull the pistons out. We'll see, recheck the valves and everything. So, and I wished I had a bright light, and I don't. I was gonna try to show you the rust on one of those valves that I've seen, but I don't think I can show you. So, well, we're gonna get to it. First things first, I'm gonna jack this up, because I have never drained the oil in it. So, I'm gonna start by draining the oil, and then we'll go from there. Drain plug loose. Ooh, that's not good. Although it did have a broken, it did blow ahead. I just see an awful lot of antifreeze, that's all. In fact, it looks like it's almost straight antifreeze. Oh, there's the oil. Alright. I'm gonna swap out containers here. So I'll just finish draining this and then we'll go from there. Alright, I'm just gonna put this stuff in milk jugs for now. I guess it stands to reason there's that much fluid because half of it or so is antifreeze. My concern when a head gasket blows like that, and this motor still did, I'm told, run after that, but my concern is always, because a lot of people, you know, will put water in their radiators, and if that's sitting in the cylinder for any length of time, which for this motor it's been a couple of years, it's like, are we getting any rust happening inside those cylinders? So we're gonna find that out. Holy cow. There we go. Technical operation right here. And I'm going to end up pulling that oil pan, obviously. See if there's metal or what's going on. All right. Empty this one. Finish draining it, hopefully. It's like a never-ending well. I'm not going to put this on an engine stand because I don't have one. I mean, I do have an engine stand, but it's got a motor on it at the moment. So I won't bore you with this process. We'll just continue here when I'm done. So one thing that's not looking very good is, you know, already when starting a project is these bolts. Literally, the first two bolts I've tried, I've been able to bust them loose with one hand and not even really have to put much might to it. So that's always kind of scary when you're starting a project and you're already running into that kind of crap. So, well, I think the oil's drained. I'm going to get this thing sitting back down on some firewood, and first thing I'm going to do is take the transmission off, separate it from the motor, and then we'll work on removing valve cover and then the head. So I got to take the manifold off. So we'll continue here in a sec. So I stand corrected. I actually have run into two bolts that hold that transmission onto the motor, and I didn't even have to use a wrench to loosen them. They were not even hand tight. So holy cow, I hate running into that this early in a project. So it's no surprise that whoever had this before maybe rebuilt it. I mean, I can see maybe missing a bolt. Not really. That's why you double, triple check. But very good reason probably why maybe they blew a head gasket. Perhaps they didn't even torque the heads down. We're gonna find out. All right, I got the bolts out. Gonna try to separate transmission to motor. All right, that was pretty easy. Fortunately, my engine hoist is in the way. I'm gonna try to yank this transmission out of here. I might be able to leave it there for the time being. Really wished I had an engine stand. And I'll look into the clutch and everything later. So just going to start taking the top apart and see what we got. And yes, my plan is to literally rebuild it right here. I don't, unfortunately I don't have a stand, but I've done it before. I can do it again. So, not going to be probably a very productive day. Today's just, I want to order the parts that I need, a rebuild kit, but I just don't know yet what I'm going to order until I can see inside. And things like the clutch. Typically, I always like to put a new throwout bearing, you know, clutch, everything new since I've got it this far apart, but I don't know. Maybe somebody put a new clutch in. We'll have a look and see. So one thing I wanted to cover, even though this is not a how-to video, I like to always put it, well, I can't say I always end up putting it to top dead center, because a lot of guys say put it at top dead center before you start the tear down. But the fact of the matter is, when you tear it completely down, you're going to end up setting it to top dead center later. And so I've never understood the mystery of why people say to put it at top dead center. But there's several marks you're looking at. There will be an indication line on this pulley. That should be lined up with 0. Also, your distributor, you know, when you take this cap off, that rotor that spins around, it should be on your number 1 or just slightly prior to your number 1 spark plug wire, which would be on this motor, this one here. That should be going around, and because on that fire cycle, it will just hit on this one at top dead center. So if your indicator on your front pulley is at 0, and that little rotor that spins around is on top of your number 1 cylinder, and you can also have a look at your actual cylinder, you know, once you take the head off, or even, you know, stick a wire down, pull the spark plug, you should be able to even see it. What I like to do prior to even worrying about that is to bust this bolt loose, because it does no good to put it at top dead center and then to mess with these bolts trying to get them loose. So I like to just come up here and loosen all these first, and then I'll worry about top dead center. I've never really, like I said, understood the reasons of why, but because it stands to reason you line those three aspects up later. And there's even another one on the timing chain. Once you actually get into the timing cover, there's several marks actually. So hopefully I'll remember to show you those. Plus I don't want to record my fuck up here.
You weren't even recording.
Oh shit. Alright, I actually just had filmed welding, but I don't think that I was actually recording. But so this front bolt that holds on this pulley was already kind of stripped out to the point where I couldn't really grab it with anything. I did put a socket on it and weld the socket. I only have a 110 welder, so I don't know that I got the penetration that I need. But we're gonna find out, because I've already broken, well, I cracked this socket. I've cracked 2 sockets trying to get it off. And no, I do not have an impact wrench. So I'm gonna let this cool for a bit. All right, now that broke loose pretty damn easy. You might say, well, it's because you heated it up. But I heated it up before and tried it. And banged on it with a hammer, did everything. And so I don't think it was necessarily just the heat alone. I couldn't grab those threads well enough. And yes, I got to get a new one of these, but you know, I would have never put this back. I do not put bolts back in that are stripped like that, compromised. So, all right, step 1 done. Another concern of mine is every time I've taken this bolt off, the problem's always been not getting the motor to spin. So then you got to get, you know, something and pry in there, keep the motor from spinning. And I already see a problem because I cannot get the motor to spin. And so that's not a good thing. I mean, I was told that this motor started and ran even after blowing the head gasket. There again, you know, all that fluid sitting there, or water, moisture, whatever. I question if there's some rust or something further. But this is where we play a little detective. We're gonna have to figure that out kind of as we go. So I'm just gonna kind of go on with the disassembly, and then I'll show you kind of as I go. Alright, I don't know if that's going to show up, but the number 1 spark plug, you can see these little dots on them. There were more. I've wiped some of them off, but that's rust. So I do have a little bit of rust on the number 1 spark plug. So we'll see. I'm a little concerned when I open up this further. So anyway, I'm going to try to get this head off, and I'll show you what's inside. All right, I got all the bolts, that is, off this. Let's see if I can't remove it from the head. And I see a hose I'm attached to. Let's get that hose. There's always one last thing. I'm getting a bad feeling about the motor, being that I cannot turn it over. That is not cool. Ah, shit. Alright. I might just get my first look inside. If I get my light working. For some reason, oh, there we go. I've not been able to get it working. Man, that looks almost like it burned. Bunch of crap in there. All right. Well, I'm gonna remove. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then there's a hidden bolt that you have to take off. Oh, right down in here. You got to take this bolt out. A lot of people forget about that. But actually, prior to taking that off, I've got to take basically the whole front of this has to come off so that I can get that timing chain out. So I'm going to swap gears. And start disassembling this front, get it off, so I can get the timing chain off and get the head off. That's basically my only goal today, is to remove that head so I can have a look at the pistons. So we'll take it from there. Motivation's not that high today, unfortunately. So, okay, I'll turn it back on in a bit. All right, working on the last bolt for the water pump. Shit. So that's probably not going to show up, but that's looking pretty damn kind of rusty, like an oil rust. So let me get something. I believe I got all bolts out. I'm going to try to gently pry this off. If I can find something to pry to. I don't want to get too crazy with it. Yeah, nice. Oh well, roll with it, right? That bearing doesn't seem too bad. But yeah, that's real concerning. It sort of resembles what's on that spark plug. Hope my daughter's cats don't come drink this crap. Alright, what has to come off next? I gotta get my pulley puller and get this pulley off. Maybe I'll get these 4 bolts out. I gotta get this off. And I probably should put a mark all along here so I can get them at least back together, is what I'm guessing. Alright, I gotta go find the pulley puller. Alright guys, I got the head off finally. I mean, it was not a big deal. Boom, took the bolts off, came right off. But my suspicions of why the motor would not turn over came to be fact, really. And I'm going to try to show you. Unfortunately, this camera doesn't just flip around. So hopefully this shows up. I'm going to see. Hopefully you can see this is the number 4 cylinder. Let's see if I can get some of that. That's not going to show up real well. Regardless, bam, rusted. The number 3 seems good. The number 2, rusted. Number 1, and you can't see underneath this fluid here, but the number 1 is rusted quite a bit. So that's the problem when you blow a head gasket and a person will say, yeah, but the motor still ran, you know. That's fine, and I've actually had it happen to myself, and I've rebuilt it right away. If you rebuild it right away, you're fine. But should you park the vehicle in your driveway and let it sit for any length of time with that radiator fluid in there, what you're gonna find is exactly what I found. This motor has sat, because I bought this truck this way, and I suspected this was the case. This is not a surprise for me, because I asked the guy, or you know, he told me when I bought it that they started it after the head gasket blew and it ran. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine and dandy and all, but it's also sat for 2 years with fluid in the cylinders. So there I am. And of course, I'm sure this thing's been rebuilt just because, you know, some of the bolts are tight, some are loose. I mean, they're all over the place. The head bolts were that way. I mean, it's definitely not torqued to spec, and probably why they blew a head gasket. And because I've seen them before where, you know, it might blow between 1 and 2, but this had fluid in 1, 2, and 4. So, and the head bolts, I mean, it took nothing to loosen these, and some were pretty loose. So, game plan from here on out, obviously the motor is a complete take apart. I also have to, you know, mic these cylinders, see, you know, I don't know, have they ever been surfaced, ground? I don't know. I don't know until I get in, clean it up, and measure what the deal is with them. So I got my work cut out, just starting the process of tearing it down. And of course I got to take all the valves and everything off the head. You can't take it in to have it ground with all those bells and whistles on. And then moving up to the front of the motor, I've got all the bolts out. I'm going to remove all this front stuff so I can have a look-see at the guide for the timing chain. So, and of course, then I've got to flip it over. I got to flip it over, take the oil pan off, and pull the crank out, and get these cylinders out, and see if there's any use in going forward, you know. So at this point, I don't know. I don't know what the shape of the motor is in. So I'll just continue with the assembly. Today was a bit of an exploratory mystery. And that's what today's video, or today's fun for me, was all about. So I might add to this video, and this might just be the end of it for today. I don't know yet. So I was gonna quit for the day, but I'm just kind of curious what it looks like in the oil pan. So I decided, let's take the oil pan off. You cannot believe, like, here's a bolt that I've not even done. I mean, and that, boom, that's loose. I cannot believe how loose every bolt on this motor has been. Very shocking. All right. See if we can't pop this sucker open. hammer. I guess it helps to take out all the bolts. Missed one. Look at that. That's how tight it was. Not even, golly, look at it wrong and the bolt would undo. Yeah, it's better. You just had to take all the bolts out. Who knew? Do I have one more? Got one more. Golly. Just the weight of the handle here loosens these bolts. I thought maybe it had a bad main seal because everything was so oily in this underneath this truck. And now I'm finding it just probably was because I never tightened the bolt. Other than some thick sludge, I'm looking at the magnet in there and I don't immediately see anything. But I mean, it would have possibly some sludge from just the radiator fluid in there. Well, I gotta remove that crankshaft, but I think I'm kind of done working on this for today. I gotta stop and kind of think of what I'm gonna do because of those rusted cylinders. And I'm sure underneath the cylinders, I'm sure they look fine. I'm sure it's just on top of them. But not knowing whether it's been already bored or I don't know what I'm dealing with at this point. So I will show you other awesome features of this shop. So guys, this is the latest feature of this shop. This is the actual first time I've ever had a fire in it. I know last winter I never even stepped foot in this shop because it was just too dang cold. You'd come in here with a cup of coffee and leave it for an hour or something and it'd be frozen solid. But this wood stove was in the back of the property in the woods, and so I literally just hooked it up to my vehicle and towed it out of the woods. And then the glass, I had forgot when I found it in the woods that it had these pieces of glass, but I had forgot that. So about a week or two ago, I was gonna go buy some new glass so I could use it this winter. And they wanted $40 some dollars a piece. So I was looking, you know, before tax, probably $90 for the glass. So that was about a $100 bill. And I'm like, holy cow, I can't do that. And several days later, I'm like, wait a minute, there was glass. I know I found it with glass out in the woods. So luckily I found the glass. There's some levers. One adjusts the air, or I should say the smoke that goes up in the chimney. That was rusted solid. I loosened that one. I got that one working. And there's another little lever in the back, and I believe that one kind of adjusts the airflow, but that one's rusted solid. I've not I've tried, I've banged on it, I've hit it with WD-40, I've hit it with heat, everything. And I can't get it to free. I'm thinking maybe if I build a fire or something and I try it. So basically, where I'm at now, I'm just really wanting to get the Toyota done. I actually just found a guy who's got a hood, and my hood is done, it's painted, but because a tree fell on it, there's quite a bit of Bondo in there. And this guy's got this hood for sale, but like most Craigslist things, I mean, he emailed me to tell me he had it, and then I've not heard from him since. So he also had a windshield, because I'm minus a windshield too, but not heard from him. So I'm gonna start, I guess, putting things like door handles and the locks and just all the stuff that I can put back on. I've been kind of stalling because I wanted to get some of that fluid film. It's a lanolin oil based product, and a lot of guys just get in the habit of just putting it inside your doors, you know, inside your frame rails, on the frame rails, and it really works quite well from what I hear. I've never used it, so as far as protecting from rust. And the other day I was going to start putting all these little things back together, and I'm like, shoot, before I do that, I need to spray some of this stuff in there. So I got that today, and just need to kind of get this Toyota done. I've got to try to find some. I've got all like the side lights and the blinkers and everything. Some of them are broken, so I need to find some new ones. More of a concern is the little light fixtures where you put your light bulbs in. A lot of mine just disintegrated when you touched them. So I've got to try to solve the wiring, but to be honest, I'm trying to solve the motor problem first. 3 cylinders rusted. Not off to a good sign. So anyway, I'm gonna call it a day and sit here and enjoy my fire. It seems like the thing to do. I wonder if I could just... That's a bit hot. Now that I got this damn thing out here, I might actually start spending more time in the winter out here. But I was looking to get one of these. I wanted one of these, but bigger for the house. I got a wood stove in the house. That's all we heat with is wood. But I wanted something that had a glass front. I love the glass fronts. So I haven't really found and scored one of those for the house, but now that I got this, I might be able to actually be out here in the winter and do more projects. The goal was to bring that snowmobile in this winter and sit here in the heat and get that going, but I think the Toyota is going to take up most of the winter. So, well guys, that's it probably for this video. I'm not really probably going to film dismantling the rest of it since it's not a how-to video. When I can figure out the state of the motor, as far as the cylinders, I mean, that's the only mystery at the point. And there's a lot of, the pilot bearing's bad, the clutch didn't look that bad, didn't look that worn, and then the surface, the mating surface for it, didn't look that bad. The throwout bearing's bad, the pilot bearing's bad, and where the pulley, you know, where the belt lines go on the front of the motor, a lot of those pulleys, some of those were bad. Water pump, I always get a new one regardless if I think it's bad or good, since you're going that far. But everything inside where the timing chain was, everything looked fairly new. My guess is that somebody just did a top end at least, you know, maybe the whole entire thing, but my guess is someone just rebuilt the motor, at least the top end, put a new timing chain in it, didn't tighten the damn thing down, and probably didn't even use the pickup that far or that long until they blew a head gasket. I've always seen, you know, maybe 2 cylinders at best flooded with fluid, but 3, I've never seen that, because that would mean, to me, that would mean that it gave away, the gasket gave away in 2 places. But like I said, I was able to pop those loose, some of them with one hand. And I've never, I mean, typically, you know, head bolts, they're on a lot tighter than that. So anyway, that's just me rambling and enjoying my new fire. So that's the latest edition. I'll clue you in with the motor when I know what the plan with it is. So, all right.